Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica Podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Please don't forget to follow Urbanistica on the different social media platforms, and also let's connect on LinkedIn. Big thanks to Urbanistica podcast partner, AFRI. AFRI is an international engineering and design company providing sustainable solutions in the fields of energy, industry, and infrastructure. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. Today we have a new story from Pontevedra, and I have the pleasure to welcome you back to the podcast, Ethan. Hey, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Mustafa. Always great to see you, be with you, and be part of your global community and conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving your time. I know, now it's super busy. It's the last day here in the Pontevedra.
Yeah.
How is it going?
Well, this is heaven to be here with some of my favorite people around the world, many of the guests of your podcast, and to learn, come back together from so much time away, seeing many old friends and connecting with new ones. The placemaking community, the Urbanistica Podcast community keeps growing, and it's wonderfully diverse in every kind of way, every nationality, age, interest, discipline, sector.
Yeah,
it just keeps getting better. So we feel very lucky. We're onto something.
Exactly. Is this your first time here in Pontevedra?
It is. I've actually, though, came through here 19 years ago on my honeymoon. So
19 years.
Yeah, and I had my wife here earlier in the week, so it was a nice reconnection and a recollection of that.
It's a big change in the city, right?
Yes. So the pedestrianization has been really impressive, and the city deserves to be known for how special a place it is here.
Mm-hmm. And from the week, Placemaking Week here in Europe, what are your top 3 moments?
The schedule has been extraordinary. The speakers, have ranged so many different topics of the emerging issues that placemakers need to be focused on, from equity to area development and scaling up placemaking's impact to shape and draw development that adds to place. There's been a lot of speakers on that topic. And of course, governance. We're looking at systemic change. How do we use the small change that placemakers have been known for and good at to really disrupt and reorganize participation, governance, management of cities and public spaces. And there's some great thinkers, doers on those topics here.
Yeah, and now after big events and so on, it starts question. Okay, so what is next? I would love to ask you, first, what is next? What is happening now in Placemaking X? What's happening now, and what is next?
So, and certainly this week has helped set the agendas and grow many focuses as well. We do have a continual calendar of gatherings that are starting to grow again in person, and many virtual ones still. But next week we actually have something called Placemaking Action Week.
Okay.
So October 3rd through 9th, we are celebrating, encouraging, highlighting placemaking action around the world. We're mapping many of the great placemaking actions. The movement has built awareness. We built a cause for public space and placemaking. We want to continually grow our capacity to have an impact and to act. And placemaking is about action. It's about something anyone can do at all scales, and growing collective action, collective leadership for the public realm, in all contexts. So we're lucky to have. There's a lot of good, projects being posted on the Placemaking Action Week.com, and we're kicking it off on October 3rd with a global call, which actually happens to be World Cities Day at the beginning of Urban October, UN Habitat's Urban October, on that same day. So we encourage people to participate in that call, share their actions on the call and on the website. We're also, Placemaking India is hosting a big placemaking week at the end of November. They had a placemaking weekend a couple years ago. A weekend,
Nice.
Right? So, but this one will be a real gathering of probably the fastest growing placemaking network in India. There's many other placemaking weeks being planned. There's one that's going to be announced the end of this conference that I can announce now is the Mexico City. The end of next October will host a big global placemaking leaders summit.
Wow. So what is it like? It's only for leaders, or what is the difference between a weekend?
So we haven't had a global one in a little while.
Yeah.
And this, we really want to make sure we get the leaders of the movement there, and anyone will be welcome, but to come from so far, we don't expect everybody to come. So especially the leaders of the regional networks, people are trying to start new networks and help lead them. Those are really the core people that have made the placemaking movement happen, are really defining where it's going. So we're looking forward to inviting anyone to Mexico City. Placemaking Mexico has done a great job organizing big conferences in the past. They're really a model network in terms of their impact, their convening, the way they've supported many placemaking NGOs around the country. So I really encourage people to start to plan now to come to Mexico.
Yeah. And what is like the next for the placemaking movement? Start as a movement, more structure, like communities, networks, organizations, toolkits, and so on. So what is next? Like this in this
So toolkits and evaluations are definitely something we need to have focus on to build capacity for anyone to do placemaking. And luckily, there are a lot of the regional networks that have been developing them. And so we part of the model of Placemaking X is to have these ideas tested, grown, kept in check, challenged at the local level, and incubated. And so I've worked on some toolkits actually with in Australia. The state of New South Wales has been funding the synthesizing of many of the best tools, from PPS's tools to Gale's tools to City Stipo's tools, putting them together into sort of an action toolkit that anybody could use. But there's many examples. Placemaking Europe's website has a great treasure trove of tools and resources. I've been talking to them about how do we start to get some of those on the Placemaking X website as well, and get some new ones from other parts of the world. So we want to support placemaking action around the world, where we have been focused on really growing and supporting the new regional networks, having them cross-fertilize amongst them, so to be mentors to each other. And now we're also starting to focus on cross-cutting networks and cross-cutting causes. And there's many of them. Here we launched the Real Play City Challenges nominees, or the finalists rather, for their for the latest round that we organized with Stipo and Wasipi Changa. So there's a growing interest in children and placemaking around the world, which is very important. And luckily, some funders are also interested in that topic. So we definitely want to keep the learning and action advocacy network around children and placemaking going. We're starting to focus on place-led development, where we've been lucky to get to meet some of the most progressive developers around the world. We really want to highlight, support them, build a learning network amongst them, and then have them collectively challenge and support all developers to develop in ways that add to place rather than take from it. So that's where we think the placemaking movement has a lot of integrity and strength, in that it started with people really connected to places and public spaces at a really small scale to have a bigger impact. We are poised to challenge and support development to create this sort of virtuous cycle of adding to place. And driving the market and proving to other developers that they should develop in ways that add. Do
you have like a specific goal or target that you should reach? Like within this year, we need to start like so many placemaking networks in new countries, or do you have like such kind of goals, or how does it work?
We're ready to be challenged by you anytime, Mustafa, to raise our expectations and goals. But it's it has been quite organic, and luckily, it's the way networks work is that it does become somewhat exponential, and it does keep the learning, the collective learning, action, and advocacy is growing and challenging each other, and making sure we're grounded in authentic experiences and local culture and context, obviously. So it's not something where we look at growth in obviously a growth mindset is a good thing, but can also be, if it's framed the wrong way, can be unhealthy too. So We probably could measure it more though. So we're open to ideas on how to do that.
Yeah. And how does it work? Like, let's say we have the listeners who wants to start like a placemaking in their countries or cities. How can Placemaking X help?
So anybody can sign up on the Placemaking X website as an advocate. And so we encourage
Yeah.
people to sign up, and that's how we can connect with you, and other people can find you in their country or in the topics you're interested in. It's also how, when we do set up these regional networks, they can help find you and get you involved. And then, people are welcome to get in touch with us if they want to start a network or a placemaking campaign in their city, in their country. And we, can help guide them, mentor them a little bit, connect people to the right mentors that they're interested in, tell them about how these networks and campaigns have been structured, how they've worked in the past, and help them, and then try to highlight what they're doing and celebrate it, and get their work connected. We try to of course connect people with funders and other resources as we can. But that's the idea of a network, is that we all support each other.
And like I did podcasts with many of our community here, and many of them raising up interesting questions, like let's say economy or post-growth economy, digitalization, innovation, and so on. So like, is the placemaking movement can be adopted, and we can change the values of the movement, not upgrade it, but like
Evolve it, perhaps.
or no, we have like let's say we have main principle or values that we cannot change it. How what is your reflection about this?
So yeah, we think that to the extent that there's a structure and a design to Placemaking X, we're hoping it, events like this can really challenge and grow the culture and identity. And certainly we are all being challenged, I think, to focus more deeply on systemic change, making sure we're not perpetuating the status quo with placemaking, to make sure we're addressing more equitable issues. I think blind spots of placemaking in public spaces have been housing, because that's fallen outside of it. But we're also learning some really creative ways in which placemaking can address that, and understanding how it can't, and how we need to partner with and to draw on other efforts to create affordable housing and address structural inequities, and access to resources that are preventing many people from thriving. But there are obviously our core values and our goals that we think have attracted many people to placemaking, but also to the fact that it's an open journey of learning and collectively challenging each other.
Yeah, and we're talking like about growth of the network and like a new organization in different cities. Let's say we have a network or an organization in a city, like let's say number of people. Is your recommendation that they should grow and be more in the team, or no? Like, if they are happy, they can stay like 5 people. What is your recommendation?
So yeah, we do think that there are groups of 5 people of our, we say like 3 to 7 people are a good working group of
like the core team.
And in fact, that number, when we do place games, little placemaking workshops, we often use, break it down to small groups of people working on a small square. And it's really the same principles of how you build a campaign for your intersection or your corner of your park. The idea is that it's not, you learn to listen to other people. It attracts people with different skills, perspectives, resources, and often it attracts the right people. So whether you're building a campaign for a public space, a city, or a country, we try to sort of help facilitate the creation of these core teams of people. And not, they welcome anybody, of course, but as they get bigger, you also try to find ways to have core teams focus on cross-cutting issues in that space, or smaller places within it, perhaps. And it takes different types of leadership to start these things as it takes to run it. And you need people that are good at social media and have different organizing skills and access to resources, and people can write grants. And so that you need a diversity of perspectives and skills on these teams. Some of them are developing, organizational structures that are really formal. Some of them are keeping it pretty informal and low cost. And both directions can have big impact.
Yeah, and how big is Placemaking X team? What is the organization?
So we're very small. We're trying to. This is about the people leading this around the world.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to build an institution or an organization, and we don't want to compete for funding with anybody. And so it's very light, quick, and cheap, just like placemaking. And I'm lucky to have a lot of people supporting me in my community in New York, and then the leaders of the the placemaking movement, and the networks around the world are offering a lot of volunteer time on the skills that they can to support us, from web design to graphics to organizing events like this, essentially. And so we have a board. We have a that has includes many of the people you've interviewed and represents many parts of the world. So the team is everyone involved in the placemaking movement.
And the core team, like who is in your team, like that you have a direct contact with, like a daily basis.
Daily basis,
yeah.
I work somewhat independently. My brother actually helps me. He worked with Project for Public Spaces. He still does part time as well, and I live a block from my father, who's very involved, and he founded Project for Public Spaces, and really, perhaps the founder of the placemaking movement. But I work daily with people like Guillermo Bernal from Placemaking Mexico, and Hans from Placemaking Europe, and Ping, who helps leads the Asia network, and Peter Smith is our board chair. He's from Australia. Steve Davies, who's the chair of the Placemaking Fund, in which Placemaking X sits. And then actually Peter Smith's wife has also been really helpful in developing our relationships. One of our latest training programs with Town Team Movements. It's an online, very affordable training program called Placemaking Education. Placemaking.education is where you can get a lot of placemaking resources and sign up for different. They're adding more and more customized trainings, including one for local government officials right now.
Yeah. Do you see that one mission of Placemaking X is that to start having a conversation with academia to have like more placemaking courses as a part of academic?
Definitely. I think we started from a less academic perspective, and I think there's been
like more practitioners,
more experiential, more observing how people use space. There was systematic and rigorous ways that we did the research that underlies a lot of the placemaking movement from the 70s and 80s. But yes, it's definitely time that we connect more to broader research, and there's a lot of great research going on right now about issues of psychology and health. And next month I'm going to be at the International Society for Urban Health conference in Valencia, which is a strong academic urban public health base to it, with Giselle Sebag, who's here and part of placemaking Europe. But there are now more and more placemaking programs in different universities around the world, and there's placemakers from here that have connections to, or at least one foot in an academic world, and they're using place and public space to again disrupt and reconnect different sectors and different departments in academia.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you see, like, in the future that a placemaker is a formal title, just like an architect, urban planner? Because as you know now, like, I'm an urban planner and a placemaker. I'm a geographer and a placemaker.
Yeah, good question.
What do you think? What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, I do like how everyone in the placemaking movement has sort of one foot somewhere else, and then one foot here, and they're bridgers, and that's really what placemakers need to be. Is they need to be connectors, facilitators, bridge builders. And we want placemaking to be done professionally, and we want people to be able to create careers in this. So to an extent, Placemaking X is a field, but I think it's a field. We're not trying to compete with or replace other professions. We're trying to build placemakers that are facilitative of everyone engaging, drawing on the best skills of the community, of the different disciplines, and guiding people towards action and towards drawing really appreciating all the skills that are needed to create a place. It takes many more skills than one discipline can offer to create places. And the problem with the biggest limiting factor for many places is it's one discipline defining and shaping the outcomes very narrowly. So I think other disciplines will start to realize more and more that placemakers help them do their job better, not replace them, but they have to let placemakers be leading in many ways, not just doing the stuff afterwards. They have to facilitate and guide the vision with the community, build demand, and build a program and a problem set for design community, especially to be solvers of, not leading with their brand or their concepts.
Yeah. And like you're in contact with different placemaking networks.
Yeah.
Do you see that like some networks are like really getting this in like more professional than like the system of a city, or how far?
Yeah. So every of the more than 20 networks, each one
20 networks like country or city?
Country, mostly countries.
Countries,
Though there's also Placemaking Europe and Placemaking Latino America.
Yeah, Asia.
Placemaking Asia. But so each one of them, I think the placemaking movement is coming from different strengths and has different weaknesses. And part of the reason to create it, to network it globally, is because we want people to see the placemaking, first of all, is very diversified. People in government, activists and developers and architects can all be leading generously in this way, but also the people that are leading are often blocking the other sectors to a certain extent. So it's always, how do you invite in? Our job is to help these networks invite in the groups that are missing. And so in government, some of the Australia and the UK and parts of Europe do have more placemaking from government. And so that's great, but they're also trying to move towards more of an enabling empowerment model where they're getting other sectors involved. Australian governments do hire a lot of placemakers right now. There's a lot of the councils we help share the job postings, and they're really it's exciting to see that happen. And there's always several steps forward and some steps back as they get success and get supported. But we have to look at this holistically too. There's not one goal to just get placemakers in one role. There's no one answer to how the role the placemaker should have in a city government or separate.
Or even if we talk about network, it's not like there's so much focus to the European one than the one in let's say in Asia and so on.
Yeah.
Now, I usually ask 2 questions about the network or about the community.
Yeah.
What should placemakers stop doing? What should placemakers start doing?
Those are great questions. So I think we should stop doubting ourselves. We are onto something. We've deconstructed our efforts, and we've been fighting to have relevance and impact. For a long time, for decades in some places, and we're here. This community is magical, and it's just the strength of the people. It really is the most important part of it. So we should feel good about this and let it go, be contagious. I think we were in a session just earlier about how do we create a radical change? Because there is a threat that placemaking is just even if it's well intentioned, it can perpetuate the status quo if we're just activating a space. It doesn't really address structural inequity or race issues. If it doesn't address sort of past pains and damages in that community, and if it doesn't create the systems, the governance systems, the economic systems that we need for people to thrive, or doesn't make steps in that direction. So I think we want placemakers to start thinking about systems change. We were asked about, is it radical change? I think what's so radical about placemaking is that it can be radical without being perceived that way. And what's radical about it is that there's lots of small changes happening around the world. So we have to see the collective power of that and tell a collective story, and support each other in those goals, and then think bigger about how we can each have bigger impacts.
Yeah. Do you think placemaking is the answer?
I think placemaking is a tool for connecting and drawing out the best in people and our connection to place. I think placemaking enables the sort of virtuous cycle of how people and places can build each other up, and can guide us towards action, collective action, move us out of our silos, move us out of sort of the problem-focused world that we're in. We need to identify the problems. We need to understand them. But a focus on place is really fundamental to our living in this physical existence. We're born in some ways to connect to our places and people in them, and how we build civilization is how we build up our places and our relationships within them. So it sounds simple and common sense, but we are structured to focus on everything but these simple goals in our lives. We're structured to, and the disciplines, the silos, culture moves us away from these simple goals that really lead to happiness and our greatest creativity, which is realizing our potential and our collective and humanity's potential, which is the only way we're actually going to keep human life on Earth. And that's again, that simple goal. There's lots of important goals, from health to equity to climate, but I actually think focusing on helping humans thrive on our places and all scales is actually going to help us best achieve those other goals.
Yeah. From 1 to 10, how much are you happy in your position?
Oh, I couldn't be luckier and more privileged to get to do this work and get to work with people like this, and be in great places. I feel like I'm always in the best place in the world, with some of the best people in the world, and so I'm very, very happy. And but I'm always, always want more. I always want to be able to, with how lucky I am. I want to be able to give back more and help be part of this, help people that are part of this community, and help them thrive in it as well.
What is the happiest thing in your job?
It's being with people I just had a wonderful lunch in a plaza and with people from all over the world that I've known for for a long time. Some I've just met today, and I'm very lucky to
meeting people.
Meeting people,
or collaborating
with them, and bridging, drawing connections. And these people are dedicating their lives to this kind of work and trying to figure out how to do that. And just a few connections and ideas can really spark within people and unleash incredible potential.
What is the most boring thing in your job?
Well, the thing I think, and you're much better at this, is the social media. Social media has been great.
Wait.
It's been great for network building, but it is definitely draining, and
you're good, by the way. Okay, no. Maybe I cut this because you're not. You're so good, and also you're editing. I saw you're editing the pictures before, the colors, and before you're posting. I'll be like, this is advanced.
Oh, really? Oh no, I don't know about that.
Good job. So social media, the time for social media.
But I appreciate that's how we build this network, and for people remotely, this is the way we connect and highlight each other. And
no, but good job, because you're quick. You're not posting 1 week after what's happening. You're posting that day. Keeping the network updated.
So we appreciate everything everyone does to grow the network's conversation and learning through social media. Certainly. Yeah.
How did you get into placemaking? Is it just because your dad working with it, or how was the start?
I was really lucky to grow up around many people that were leading in the environmental movement and various social causes in New York. My father organized the first Earth Day in 1970. He organized a street academy for Black and Latin education before that. Actually, my mother actually has always been involved in local economic development work, or advocacy for strong local economies, and actually challenging the global economy, global culture, working with a woman by the name of Helena Norberg Hodge, who's been a big mentor of mine as well. She runs something called Local Futures. So I grew up with a lot of mentors. So I always knew I would do something around social change and environmentalism. And of course, we saw that the environmental movement, hasn't accomplished all it's needed to. And, I increasingly saw throughout my childhood that it wasn't focused just not enough on cities and people and places. And I saw how a focus on place could ramp people onto broader consciousness and stewardship of the environmental issues and other issues, and build their capacity to take on those bigger challenges. So, I've been lucky to have a great roots around that. And I did this incredible graduate program where I actually met my wife traveling around the world, working with local activists on cultural development and again, people challenging the global culture, the monoculture, working and spending a few months in India and lots of time all over Latin America. And, so those experiences really continue to lay the foundation for what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Will your because you have 2 kids, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Will they be placemakers and continue? What do you think?
Yeah, I think they.
Wait, what do you think, and what is your wish?
They don't really know what placemaking is yet. They're 10 and 12. So I wanted to take them to a place like this. And honestly, actually, when I was, I think 9 or 10, I had my first experience of what my father did.
Yeah.
And it was going to a conference. I've been walking around Pontevedra, remembering this. Actually, it was the first time I've ever been allowed to walk around a city by myself.
Here in Pontevedra.
It was just in this conference was in Venice, but it had a very similar experience. It was car free, just like the core of Pontevedra. And it was that moment, it was actually going to a conference with my father, the first International Making Cities Livable conference. There's now been 57 of them. This is the first one in Venice in 1986. And that just got me hooked. I fell in love with what Venice could be. And some of the people that were at that conference I've known my whole life. And so I had no idea what my father did before that, but I was like, okay, so if I brought them to Pontevedra, they would be placemakers. Not yet.
So do you think they will be placemakers? Let's say when they will understand what you work with and so on.
Hopefully someday. Right now, they just love playing in their neighborhood. We have a schoolyard that's just asphalt that they spend 3 or 4 hours a day in if they can, and we love too. We get to meet all the parents there. And, so they love our neighborhood that we're lucky to live in Brooklyn. And actually right in front of my father's house is the schoolyard that is our public space. Yeah. So anyone welcome to come visit us there. And
And so do you wish that they will be like you and your brother?
I want them to be happy doing whatever they like. I hope they see how lucky I am to get to do this work and get to benefit from some of the wonderful people that I've gotten to meet. But I think they'll do they'll chart their own path.
Yeah. And as a director for the Placemaking X, how does your day look like? What is your routine? When do you wake up? What do you do?
So unfortunately, there's not that much structure because there's often calls, before my kids wake up or after they go to bed. But I do take my kids to school. I do bike with them, and play sports with them. And I'm lucky to work from home, so I can be flexible about all that. But this is an era where we now work from anywhere. So I also am lucky to get to be able to work a little bit from everywhere and try to always include connecting with people in public spaces as part of every day.
Yeah. It's a big difference, right? Like for COVID and after, like the way of you working on Zoom and so.
Totally, yeah.
Right.
That's really, we needed to learn how to do that, and it forced us and facilitated us to connect globally. We were lucky, though, of course, to have built in-person relationships with people all over the world. That was key through getting us through the pandemic, and now those are reconnecting those memories and bringing in new people is really key to growing this movement.
So Ethan, you're always with people, let's say with family or with a network and so on. When is your moment that you're alone and chilling, reflecting? Do you have time for this?
I'm actually an introvert, and I actually really enjoy being in public spaces and just watching. I think a lot of people like people watching too, and just being alone in other, with some protection while looking out people is a wonderful place to be. And I do shut off just like everyone else. I need to regenerate, and it's important for us all to take the time. I think just like a good city, you have a full spectrum of private to public space. You need the full spectrum of time in your day. You need private space and very public space and everything in between.
Yeah. What is your favorite food?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Okay, top 3.
That's even tougher. Well, there's a lot of, neighborhood has a lot of good Lebanese food actually in it. And, we have, great pizza in New York. Of course the Galician food right now is my favorite. So
nice. So. Now we're in the end of this episode, and I have 3 questions for you. The first question is about you giving a message to Pontevedra. What should Pontevedra think about when they continue developing the city?
So Pontevedra has done amazing work in creating and preserving this historic core, which is the layout is you really can't be beat. In the way these streets are so walkable and supported by and integrated with the small businesses here is really spectacular. I think the waterfront is. It's good to start with making the core work. Next, you make the waterfront work, and how cities meet the water's edge. The process of just figuring that out is the process of growing their new identity. So the fact that it isn't so defined is a real opportunity to engage people in creating some public destinations at the water's edge that showcase a new, more, perhaps even more inclusive and more creative face to the world. And then, more broadly, how in the post-pandemic age, as people can work where they like, this is the 15-minute city. This scale is the 15-minute city, and this is, in a way, this is the best of urbanism, and the fact that you can take a beautiful 4-hour train ride straight to Madrid,
Right.
or down to Portugal. There's every case in the world that Pontevedra could be a place that anyone would want to come live in for a while. And so attracting people that want to come live here, but not just live to extract the beauty, but live to contribute to it.
Exactly.
So engaging locals and tourists in placemaking that attract people on locals' terms first, and then attract, when people come, giving them ways that they can contribute to local economy, local culture, local placemaking. That's how you create that virtuous cycle of unleashing the potential of Pontevedra that they didn't even know was possible. So I really, I look forward to visiting it again soon and learning from, the story that they've made possible through the 20 years of work in the past year.
Yeah. Awesome. And the next question is about you giving 3 takeaway messages to our community, like placemakers. Is it fine if I make a video of you?
Sure.
Yeah. So, wait. So what are your 3 takeaway messages to our placemakers?
So this community is really special, the Placemaking Europe community, as we're so grateful for everything that this community has done to create a foundation for placemakers around the world. And I think that the little things that people have done to build this up are people don't realize how important they are to people just starting on this path in Europe and around the world. So keep building these relationships, keep highlighting your projects, sharing them through Placemaking Europe and Placemaking X. It's so valuable. And I'll also say that now's the time to think bigger. Many of the themes of this conference have focused on systemic change and place-led development and equity, and so we have to challenge what we're already doing and make sure not only our intention but the larger trajectory of our work is actually addressing challenges systemically. And then I think again we should we should be proud of the fun we can have doing this. So this is the biggest force in the world for change is actually culture, and I don't really necessarily like this idea, but I was once told by an advertising person that whoever holds the vision of the good life holds the power. And I think the placemaking community has an opportunity to put forward a vision of the good life that is inclusive and equitable and challenges modern media and monoculture in a way that goes viral and that allows other people to say that we want to be part of that, we can be part of that. So it's great places where people thrive all around the world. We can create them in every corner of the planet. Those are what will go viral and really lift people up, create the more resilient, sustainable culture, equitable culture that's needed.
Amazing. I will send this to our community. And the last question is going to be you asking it. So it's your turn to ask questions. So what is your question to me and to our listeners?
So, Mustafa, we're so grateful for the community you've built and how you've supported the placemaking community globally, and drawn out the expertise and personalities and passions of all these, zealous nuts. My question to you is, how can we best help you grow our communities together and build and think bigger about what we can do? How do you build on you've built this incredible foundation? What's next for you, and how can I help you get there?
Yeah. And a question to our listeners.
So to your listeners, love for you to be part of the Placemaking X community if you're not already, and sign up as an advocate. But also to challenge us. What does the placemaking community need to know about that we're not yet learning? Whether it's a specific project, specific idea, or some audience or demographic that's not yet included or represented enough.
Ethan, thank you so much, and I'm really happy to see you, and hopefully see you in the next coming event. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, Mustafa.